This episode of Bulletproof Cash Flow is brought to you by Realty Dynamics. Learn how people like you can build substantial passive income while creating wealth for the long term through real estate investing. Visit rdyne.com. That's RDYNE.com.
On residential, you can almost always get away with no money down. You got to pay the transfer tax because they can't come out of pocket. But for that, you're usually giving them the best price, right? So I have the conversation like this, like a seesaw, or you could call it a quadrant, depending on how many of these variables you introduce. But if you're my seller, an interest in down payment didn't come up, I'm going to work on, hey, Agostino, what's more important to you? The selling price, the term we go, or the monthly? So it's a little bit of a seesaw. I can't give you all three. That wouldn't be fair. So what's most important to you? And if they say price, boom, I can nail it and go longer on the term. Now, if down payment and interest come up, now you get like a quadrant. You get more variables to talk. But you still have to find out from them what's most important for you.
Working because you want to, not because you have to, is financial freedom. And we want to help you create that. Welcome to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We're going to teach you how to achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host is a multifamily syndicator and property developer. He's done deals reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars. You'll hear from experts in all aspects of real estate investment, finance, development, and management. Everything you need is right here. This is the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. And this is your host, Agostino Pintus.
Hey folks, ever wonder how you found this podcast? Was it LinkedIn, Instagram, a tweet? Well, here's the deal. I don't do ads. I don't do sponsorships. All I ask is that you pay it forward. If someone shared or recommended this podcast to you, do the same. A review, a mention, anything helps. Thanks so much. Hey everyone, it's Agostino. Access to financing is crucial for real estate investors, especially in today's tight lending conditions. Now that's why understanding creative financing strategies like seller financing, land contracts, principal-only payments, and other non-bank options is so valuable to learn. Now our next guest knows all about this. He is an expert at this topic. He is a real estate investor with over 30 years of experience. He's the founder of Smart Real Estate Coach and is a 4-time best-selling author on real estate financing. Now he typically acquires anywhere between 4 to 10 properties a year, or a month rather, on a slow month, using all creative financing. Now he also hosts events for investors that are focused specifically on alternative financing to scale their portfolios beyond just traditional loans. We're going to get into that too. With all that, let's welcome my good friend, Chris Prefontaine to the show. Chris, man, thanks for coming on.
Hey, I'm good. I'm glad to be here again, Agostino. Always good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, but I'm glad to see you too. Now, guys, if you like what Chris has to say, reach him via his website at smartrealestatecoach.com. Okay, Chris, go ahead and tell the listeners about some of the creative strategies you're using today, some of your backstory.
Yeah. So I've been at this 32 plus years, just to date myself a little bit. I wasn't always in creative. I got into creative after the 2008 crash because it was by demand. Agostino, you may remember, but I got crushed. And I came out of that going, man, do I even want to go back into real estate? I was just cooked. And we set up some sort of protocol and rules. We said, if we're going to do this, how are we going to play in the sandbox? And it was no banks, no signing personally on loans, no borrowing money, so you're never leveraging that. And therefore that left what? It left only, in our book anyway, owner financing, but we niched that down to be free and clear properties to owner finance, subject to existing loans, and lease purchase. Those are the only 3 ways we buy. And I'll tell you, it's a big difference going from putting my head on the pillow with 70 or 80 properties before '08 and knowing that I was on those personally versus now no personal signatures, no guarantees like that. It's a whole different ball of wax.
No, that's something interesting to cover for a second, because we don't really talk about it too much on this show, but it's important to bring up. Signing something personally. Just explain to the audience, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, you're guaranteeing almost every conventional loan. I won't say every, but because there's always nuances. But generally speaking, you're guaranteeing it personally, meaning you're pledging anything and everything you own and forever ever owned. And that means if you have a family, you're putting their assets at risk, right? How do I know that? Going into '08, I had 23 or so properties. I was on personally guaranteed on every single one of them. So when the market crashed and or the projects crashed, the banks came knocking on my door. They can tie up, they can lien, they can do anything they want because you signed personally. There's just, in my opinion, virtually no reason to do that, except for, hey, Chris, I got this house. I got to have this area for my family or for a school system or something like that you can't find a creative deal in quick enough, because you can find your own creative deals. Okay, there's an exception there as long as you don't over leverage, right? You go low loan to value. That's the only time I say to someone, okay, I get it. You can do that. But other than that, there's no reason to, especially if you have time. You can wait for a creative financing deal or find one.
Yeah. And I think that it's also worth mentioning too, if you have partners or whatever, depending on how you negotiate it, all has to be negotiated, by the way. Is it 50-50? Is there some sort of percentage? Like, if there's two partners and you're taking out, say, $1 million loan, is it partner A is responsible for half, partner B is responsible for half? I mean, all that stuff needs to be defined up front. Like when you're doing a PG on something, if you're going to do a PG on something. And all those methods you mentioned, Chris, I've done all those on big commercial deals, and not so much in the small ones, but in the big ones, absolutely. And it works very, very well. Just to your point, you don't have the PG there, the personal guarantee, and it does help you sleep better at night, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, well, okay, so we didn't even mention the grueling part of the underwriting, which is now even worse. I did a loan in 2017 for the reason I just stated. It was an area that I wanted near the water for my wife and I. We were going to tear it down. But my wife said to me, wow, what do normal people do? She means people outside of real estate. Because I was frustrated as all heck going through the underwriting process. When I bought the building I'm standing in right now, which I don't know, I probably owned it when we talked, but when I bought this building, if I was to go through a mixed use or commercial building underwriting, as you know, it's grueling. And I bought owner financing. It took literally minutes and we closed it in a month because it was all private. That's a world of difference. Man, the stress you can just alleviate.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also worth mentioning, though, too. I think last when we spoke was probably the interest rates were at 3%, and lenders were pretty much, giving a big middle finger to anybody even tried doing an owner finance type deal. But nowadays, not so much anymore. I think the same thing happened in the 70s, happened in the 80s.
Yep.
It's happening again today, where creative now becomes the way to, the only way to do deals. I mean, the last 5 deals that I've done personally were all creative financing, every single one, no lender involved, like no outside lender rather, So I imagine, we talked about this in the green room a second ago, you're getting way more traction, way more business today than you were before, just because of where we are in the market cycle. Is that, maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So whenever I'll back up. There's one constant in real estate, right? It's going to change constantly. We know that. So I get a kick out of people go, well, should I buy now? Should I do this now? How about you learn how to do creative financing, and we'll go to your question in a second, and then be able to pivot in any market, up, down, sideways. That's how we built it after the crash, so we could just operate all the time without stressing. So is it more popular now, to your point? Yeah, sellers are calling that they were selling like hotcakes before. Now they're coming out of the woodwork to call us or our students. And whenever there's a change or chaos or uncertainty in the market, that's when it gets, I won't say it picks up like it shuts off when the market's good, but it gets easier because you're going to talk to a lot less sellers to then go ahead and transact a deal. Remember, people say to us all the time, how do you convince them? Like, I got this building on principal only payments and then we amortize the balance. Like, that was pretty creative. And they go, how did you convince them? I didn't. Just keep in mind when you're doing any deal, and I'm sure you did this on your last 4, you said, you're listening for the seller's either challenge that you can solve or a goal they couldn't accomplish in the conventional market. Like, this guy wasn't stressed financially that I bought the building from. He was free and clear. What he was trying to do is, for estate planning and tax reasons, he wanted to own a finance. He desired it. So we just solved for that. That's all. So long answer to say, yes, it's way up. It's like pre-COVID when there was uncertainty, right before things got easy for sellers. There was uncertainty, so our properties went through the roof. Then it got a little more difficult because they were selling quickly, and now it's coming back full steam again. So it's just like ebbs and flows. You just got to know how to operate in it. That's all.
Now, would you say that there is a level of education needed for the sellers? Because I know that some of the sophisticated folks that maybe you talk to, I know I talk to these guys too. Yeah. Like you mentioned owner financing versus, like, say, land contract. I've done both types of deals. They both have pros and cons. But the guys I dealt with, they were already sophisticated enough to understand it and understand the upside too. I mean, there's huge upside, eliminating the bank, like big. Yeah. Do you have to often explain to some of these people? Like, I have to imagine that the immediate response from someone who's even heard of it is, "Oh my God, this is a scam. What is this?" Do you find that happens a lot, or what?
Not a ton that reaction, but it happens. I think of three tiers when you were saying that, Agostino. I think of the educated person you just talked about, like the guy who owned this building. He was into math, and he's like, "This is really cool. I like this." So yeah, that's that person. Then there's the person that is brand new to it, but is open to it, right? And then there's the person like you just said that is just fearful, like you're trying to take advantage, and they're going to send it to the attorney. Their attorney, if they never did a creative financing deal, is going to say, "No, you can't do that." It's a never-ending cycle with these attorneys. But yes, I see all three. The fact is, that's okay, because remember what I said, you're looking to solve a problem or to help accomplish a goal that they couldn't accomplish. And you get that by listening. And if they're standoffish and or not at least open to sending it to someone to look at, then it doesn't matter. You move to the next. This is somewhat of a sifting game, if you will.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like in those three tiers, the first one's going to be easier. The first and second, easiest, easy, and then the one at the lowest tier is going to be the most difficult. So how do you train your students to basically get through that and try to vet it out as fast as possible so they're not wasting time trying to convince that individual? Like, how do you do that?
It's all in the script. Like here's a simple takeaway for all the listeners, and this could be any asset class. It doesn't matter. Where, why, buy when, and what if it doesn't sell? So it's like a neighbor conversation. I live next to you and I put my home on. You come over. You just have a general casual conversation. "Hey, I saw you sign out. Why are you selling?" "Oh, cool. Where are you going?" Oh, interesting. How soon do you need to be there? And what if it doesn't sell? Like that's just a normal conversation. And when you do that, that's what we train the students on. When they do that and have that conversation, the motivation pops up or it doesn't, right? Like, what if it doesn't sell? "Oh, I'll just take it off the market. I'll stay." Well, there's no motivation then. They're just playing, right? Or what if it doesn't sell? "No, I got to sell it. I got to be in Dallas for this new job by this date." Okay, so you just know then if you should follow up or not.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the motivation is a big part of it. The motivation is a huge part of it, actually. If they're not motivated to sell, it's like there's no pressure. And, you're wasting time. You're just wasting time. So it sounds to me like it's just like I said, it's a regular conversation. But I think when we talked about this in the green room, this is not doing wholesaling. Like the individuals actually buying the asset themselves, right?
Yeah. You want to, in my opinion, out of the three ways we buy, two, you actually own it. The other one, you stay in the middle for 3 years. It's not a wholesale, the lease purchase, that is. But I want to find as many subject to and owner financing as I can so that I can own it, I can depreciate it, I can get all the other benefits. But think about this for a second. You and I just talked about the opening of the show rates, right? They're at like a 50-year average. They're actually a little higher than the 50-year average right now. If we know that, how about go out and get 0% interest? That's your owner financing deals, your free and clear properties that you can structure principal only on all day long. And how about going out and getting, that's the person that doesn't need help financially. Then how about finding the properties that perhaps maybe were bought from like 19 to 22 that have just a teeny bit of equity and they need to sell? You can find those lists. And then now you're talking about rates of 2.25% to what, 5.25%. And I don't know as though you and I will ever see those rates, maybe, but I don't know, not in my career probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're, from what I heard for 2024, they're already talking about cranking rates back down. There's going to be 6 rate cuts, blah, blah, blah. Who really knows, right? My crystal ball broke this morning. I don't know if yours is still working. You can just give me an update if that really happens. It's crazy. But yeah, I guess we talked a little bit about how you're applying it to some of the smaller deals. Have you ever applied? I know under your building you've done the same sort of thing. How does using these types of rules, how does someone get started using these types of scenarios to try to do, say, larger commercial deals?
I would, if they're brand new, I pick an asset class, first of all. I don't care how new you are. Pick an asset class and stay with it until such time you're very proficient at it, because they all have their own nuances. They're all their own businesses, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter what asset class. Agostino, this has been done since 1600s, as you know, before banking. So so if you're brand new and you want to do commercial deals or multifamilies, buy a list of free and clear in the asset class you want. You can even do it by the zip code you want. We sold this building about 3 months ago, 3 months ago, and I said to our team, just pull a list of the 3 towns on this island, pull it for this asset class, pull it free and clear, and we'll call them, buy another one if we can. So you can do that in any asset class.
Interesting. So do you typically find you can get away with putting, say, less money down? You can do, like, what sort of creative advantages do you have when you're coming up with stuff like this? Hey there, amazing listeners. I just wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for being part of the incredible Bulletproof Cash Flow community. You guys make the journey worthwhile. If you found some value in what I'm sharing, I have a small favor to ask. Could you please subscribe to the show and leave a review on Apple Music? Your support means the world to me. It helps us deliver quality content to like-minded investors just like you. Thanks again for being awesome, and let's dive back into it.
Okay, so on residential, you can almost always get away with no money down. You got to pay the transfer tax because they can't come out of pocket. But for that, you're usually giving them the best price, right? So I have the conversation like this, like a seesaw, or you could call it a quadrant, depending on how many of these variables you introduce. But if you're my seller, and interest and down payment didn't come up, I'm going to work on, hey, Agostino, what's more important to you, the selling price, the term we go, or the monthly? So it's a little bit of a seesaw. I can't give you all three. That wouldn't be fair. So what's most important to you? And if they say price, boom, I can nail it and go longer on the term. Now, if down payment and interest come up, now you get like a quadrant. You get more variables to talk. But you still have to find out from them what's most important for you. So on this building, did we break the mold and put some money down? Yeah, I think we put like 35 grand down on a little over $500,000 purchase back in 18. But why? I was going to move my own companies in. It had rent downstairs. Like, there's a whole reason to do it. I could immediately capitalize it and cash flow it. It just depends on the deal. Every deal is a little different. But if you get them to their price and that's their top priority, you can usually back off or go zero on the down payment.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most beautiful thing about this type of scenario is that you get to set the deal up any which way you can that makes both the buyer and the seller happy. Like with a bank, you can't really do that. It's not. It's they have certain buckets and certain. If you're doing resi, it's way more regulated than commercial. Way more regulated than commercial. So you kind of just don't have those types of scenarios. You just can't do it.
It's a healthy environment. I remember a lot of the new students come in and say this, but my son came in with me in 2014, 11 years ago or whatever it's been, 9 years ago. And he said, wow, it's just a healthy environment because he came from the conventional world of realtor. It's a win-win-win. The investor wins, the two families win that we help. And so we say every deal we do, generationally, we affect three families. That's pretty cool. You can't say that when the banks involved because you're not winning. I don't care how you twist it. You might create cash flow out of it because you're good, but you're not. It's not a win-win with them. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned where you can get deals. I mean, you can buy a list of basically owner deals, like deals that are already shut down. I typically go to my title company. I do enough business with the title company to give me access to data that I can actually just see what sort of commitments are on it, if any, and if there's none, that means that they own the asset free and clear too, which is kind of cool. Do you have any other sources? Like how do other people, how do they find those sorts of deals then? Did they ever use agents? You ever set them up with brokers? Like, because they have some of this data too, right?
Yeah. We don't need to anymore here. In Canada, it's different with data, but let's just talk US. We don't need to use agents anymore. RedX gets you the same data. MyPlusLeads gets you the same data. We have those listed on our resource section of our website. And when I say get you the data, every day they'll give you a live feed of the expired listings, the for sale by owner, the for rent by owner. And then those are the three main lists that can be had for like 60 to 110 bucks a month. It's not expensive. Now, if someone says, well, I need more than my radius provides me where I live, or I need more because I have aggressive goals, then we start training them how to do what I call niche lists. In addition to those three sources, let's go find a free and clear list. So let's go find a over leveraged list. You can buy any list you want these days. Inexpensive.
Yeah. So what sort of mistakes do you see people making when they're getting into this, right? I mean, I know that I see a lot of people, whenever they get a deal on the line and they run the numbers and they get all excited, and it's like, whoa, slow down, relax, hang on, due diligence, we have to understand what we're getting into, right? So a lot of those discussions, right? Aside from stuff like that, like what sort of mistakes do you see investors making when they're looking for financing or trying to line up a deal and trying to get how to make something happen? Like what sort of things do you see?
One of two things come to mind when you said that. Believe it or not, one is not skill set related. One is the mindset piece, and it's the mismanagement of their expectation. And I think, my opinion, I'm not stepping on toes when I say this, I'm broadly saying it, there are just too many companies in our space, the education field that you and I are talking about, that are really good marketers, and so they market that get rich quick tomorrow. And I'm the first to tell them, no, it's not tomorrow. We can try to do this. It's a lifetime skill. You'll go buy your own property someday from it, not just an investment. But it's the mismanaging that's when they start out of the gate. They don't do a deal quick enough in their brain, and then they beat themselves up, and then they go chase the next shiny object. And all these things, they're just like drilling wells but never hitting water. That's crazy. So to circumvent that, pick a niche that you can really get behind and then put on the blinders and go after it for 3 years. But the other big mistake, I think, is not being attached to someone like yourself or me or anyone else. I'm not so naive to think it's just us two, right? There's a whole bunch of people they can talk to, but find someone that you can relate to, that morally, ethically, business-wise, family-wise, everything. You go, I like that. They're where I want to be. Then put the blinders on. You'll have a super good experience.
Yeah, like take on a mentor. Go get a mentor. Pay for a mentor if you have to. Like
if you don't have to, great. But if you can find something to help you, there are some apprentice type things out there. We've done some of those. But yeah, get a mentor. The return on investment is insanely positive.
Yeah. No, listen. I've had numerous calls where I'm talking to an individual that wants to get into real estate, and they just finished listening to an ad on Facebook from some guy trying to sell, you're going to buy a fourplex. Next thing you know, you're going to move to Miami in 6 months. You're going to have a Ferrari. You're going to have all. It's like none of it is true.
Like the one they rented for the ad, yeah.
Right. It's ridiculous. It never goes that way ever. Ever. Never seen it. Never happened to me. And we've done a lot of transactions. Ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. I think they're just trying to move courses. I'm not mad at selling courses, of course. But, it's got to be within the realm of reason, and I think that a lot of folks could take advantage of, and that's really too bad. That's really too bad.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about your annual event. I know you have an event right now. You teach people how to get into alternative financing. Maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we do 2 live. March is the Wicked Smart Summit, and September is the Quantum Leap System, which is kind of our main system of live event. And then we do virtuals. Like we have a virtual this Friday to kickstart people's mindset for 24. They're all geared around something a little different. Like I said, this one coming up is virtual, and it's all about let's look at what worked in 2023 and what didn't, and let's position ourselves best for 24 before the month's gone. And then the summit is sort of parlaying off that and going more into the skill sets and the systems. We teach 3 things. It's like a genius model, we call it: skill sets, systems, and mindset. So the events are always trying to touch each one or at least one of those. And then they can come more aggressively with us, in the trenches and do some coaching if they want to dive deeper.
Nice. So, QLS, I heard of that system before. I think, it's not the same as Damian Lupo, is it? Is that something else? Or is that?
No, it's just Quantum Leap System. And it's like A through Z online. So it's always evolving. We're actually doing it over again. So it's current, and it's everything we do. A through Z, everything we do. We're going to hold back. I mean, it's like a resource center versus a course. You're going to keep it for 10 years. You're going to keep it for life.
Oh, nice. Good. And you show people what they need to do and how to be successful in this world.
Every mod goes through rather something that you and I talked about, like lease purchase, owner financing, sub-2, scripts, buyer mod, so you can see how to sell these things. My son goes through that. He's the expert at that. Everything is in there in its own mod.
Nice. You mentioned mindset twice already, and I think it's something very, very important to cover. What sort of mindset training, if any, do you provide for the students that come into your program?
Yeah, we do a few things with that. This is a big development we did. So about 2 years ago, we hired Dr. Kelsey Deppen. She's not only our community director, she has a background in psychology and personal development, but she came in as our community director and then talks every month on the mastermind call. That's just we do a mastermind every Thursday. We have since, 2015. But she comes on once a month for the motivational mastermind, and she does all mindset. Then any coaches I use or the family uses or any of the coaches use that was effective, we'll then bring them as a speaker for free to either the event or what we call the weekly Wicked Smart Sit Down. It's a free event we do every week. And that we bring things like that to them. Just to say, Agostino, look, people come in and do a deal in 32 days. Some people come in and do a deal in 15 months. Why is that? We teach the same QLS course. It's the mindset. So if that's so important, then why not work on that? We constantly work on that.
Yeah. No, listen, when I worked in corporate, I was stuck in corporate. It wasn't until I left corporate and realized that it was at that point that I really needed to make a change in my life, and it all started right up here. That's where it all starts, reprogramming my brain and really thinking about success. I think anybody can do it, but that chasm is quite large, going from employee to entrepreneur. I think it can be crossed, but you really have to have the right mentoring, the right coaching, the right training, the right motivational, support. Right? It's huge. It's huge. Absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. So listen, we covered a lot of stuff here today, Chris. If you had one piece of bulletproof advice for anyone listening, maybe they're thinking about jumping into real estate, they're a little scared right now just because of where the market is, what sort of bulletproof advice would you have to offer them? Enjoying the ride? Dive into the real estate game at bulletproofcashflow.com. Got a bunch of free resources there, as well as masterminds that you can join in on. Success awaits there. Go ahead and check it out.
I'll be biased if I could. I would go free first, because all these initiatives we're talking about, you can get free stuff. So I'll offer that. Okay, I'll give you some advice out. I'll give you the free book for all the listeners. Just go to wickedsmartbooks.com/bulletproof, then the number one. wickedsmartbooks.com/bulletproof, and the number one. And then secondly, go on YouTube. There's like the deals we're talking about. There's like, I lost count, 250, maybe 300 live deals on YouTube showing you the good, the challenges, the bad. It shows you everything. And then you'll say, yeah, that's cool. I like that. Then you could go and invest in yourself. But why not do it for free first? I'm just a big believer in that, instead of slamming something down everybody's throat. I would suggest that they take advantage of everything we have free. I gave you the Wicked Smart sit down. Just go to smartrealestatecoach.com and you'll get access to everything.
Love it. Love it. All right, guys, want to reach out to Chris? Again, reach him at his website, smartrealestatecoach.com. Check out, he's got a lot of great material out there too, okay? Now, with the right financing, the right mindset, the right strategies, you can grow your portfolio of real estate. Even in tight lending markets like there is today, people have done it before, they're going to do it again. It's a great opportunity to get into real estate no matter what it is, all right? Anyway, go ahead and check that out. And don't forget to check out Chris's website too, okay? And his stuff on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next episode.